What kind of classes you're teaching here or sharing with the
Well, it's
Bulgarians?
not only here, but I love to come over because I think Bulgaria, for me at least, seems, again, at least for me, like a very quiet country, very decent country, and the people are very simple in most ways, which means usually they're not trying to trick you. And I find it invigorating because from the area I come, it's not exactly so. Competition there is, let's say, about 100 times bigger. So what I teach in reality is the same thing from different angles, because the body is the body is the body. But we know from recent years and research that the body is composed of different layers and different components that for some years it looked like the components are completely separated. And only in the last couple of years it seems that we found the connective wire or thread that is connecting everything. And this is what I'm concentrating. And for me it's like music, because it looks like everything that I learned is falling into a certain puzzle that if you look at the whole of it, it's really connected. So when you're doing one thing, it's affecting the other and affecting the other and affecting the other. And the one thing that I came to know that I didn't know at all before coming here is something that is called like panorhythmic. And I cannot say that I know anything about it. I just read a little bit about it. But it looks also very interesting because eventually, for some years, it looks that it's connected to the stuff that I'm interested in. But again, the stuff is not new. The materials that we're talking about are already existing in the world for
Thousands of
ions. Because we're talking about Chinese medicine, Indian medicine, Israeli medicine, Arabic medicine, and they all were talking about something, but they couldn't call it in the right names. So in modern society, we are so in a hurry to call it names that now we have names and we can call it names that, let's say, 2,000 years ago were not existing. That's a major difference. And we are in an era of what is sometimes called evidence-based, which means we are trying to base whatever we are learning or teaching on something that is really working as compared to something that is not evidence-based, which is a big problem to everybody, because sometimes there are things that you cannot really made in pure evidence, but it's a different story.
And what would be that key thing that connects everything? You said you have the answer now.
Oh, I wish. I'm still the universal traveler and I'm still trying to get better knowledge. We know that the key is not one. There are several keys. The beauty that the keys are connected, that's the beauty. So I cannot say that there is one key for everything, but the keys are connected, and this is a real revelation because everybody was talking about it. And if you're looking at it from a philosophical perspective, I can say something funny, that the key is love.
I was going
because
to ask you that.
If you're looking at the understanding of the last couple of years in psychophysiology, we came to understand that emotions are the key factor and the key factor that are interfering with human health. So a person can do lots of exercise, can do a very good diet, but if his emotional life is in distress, then nothing is going to help. So you need to balance or to harmonize yourself in a lot of levels, including your emotional distress or emotional life. Because if your emotional life is nil, you are in a big problem.
It's wonderful. I mean, that really makes me think of a book I read in Italy from astrophysics, Giuliana Conforto is her name. She speaks about the matter, which the visible one is just 4%.
Matter of life.
Yeah, and then the invisible one, which the scientist has said that it's 96% of everything that we don't know, that's connected with emotions, and that's one that's responding, and that's running
Absolutely,
the show.
but this is not new. Also, we know that matter is actually created by nothing, which means that nothing is much bigger than what we think about matter. So in reality, the world is a sort of facade. It's nothing, but we see it as something. Because if you look at the electron or the size of the atom and compare the size of the atom to the grain that is creating it, then it's really 1 to a couple thousand. So in reality, the whole world, the whole visible world, is nothing, much more nothing than something. But I do believe that in medicine we are talking almost about the same thing, because, and you know now it's not something new, you know that placebo medicine or psychosomatic medicine shows, and there are current research papers showing that sometimes placebo effect is reaching more than 50%, which means what is going on? Are we giving medication, or should we give medication? Because we know, according to American studies, more than 10 years ago, that about 85% of the medical cases now in the US are coming from side effects of medications. And we know that most medications are, in a big way, are hazardous to your health. So why are we taking them? Because somebody said you must take them? And we know all the things about, which is open, about statins and other medication, and the doctors are defending their position, you know, fervently, because they think that they are holding the Holy Grail or something. But the Holy Grail belongs to the people, not to anybody. But we are tampering with it, and we see what's going on with the civilization everywhere. So it's about time that people are getting more educated and, you know, more knowledgeable about themselves. So,
because you believe that the healing process starts within you, so the body heals itself, and you, when you practice in different ways, you help support the regeneration ability of the body.
I would rephrase it a little bit differently. I would say that most of us are quite blind, and most of us needs a sort of guidance as to where to go, left or right, up, down. Otherwise, we wouldn't need any doctors, because the truth is just below us, above us, and on both sides. So if somebody wants to get better in somewhere, in most cases he knows how to do. So I can tell you just a funny story about that happened in the US a couple of years ago, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, that the NIH, the American Health Ministry, did a survey about doctors, checked about 1,000 doctors, general practitioners, and asked them question about diabetic, which is a major problem in the 21st century. So the question goes something like 20 questions. And the question goes, do you know what it means by diabetic? Do you know how dangerous is diabetic? And what would you recommend for diabetic? Blah, blah, blah. And at the end, do you know that exercise can improve diabetic by big percentage than most of the medication you give? So on this question, everybody answered yes. Then the last question was, if you know that this is true, why you're not recommending? All of them answer, I do not know. So this is funny, and you know now the biggest interesting new things is a doctor that you're coming to and don't take me wrong, I'm not against anybody, but it's funny to see a doctor smoking a cigar or a cigarette and telling others do not smoke because it's dangerous. So I'm
it's
from
the free will.
Yeah,
it's the free will.
Yeah, but I think that if a person is preaching for something, at least he preaches it to himself. But you know, I'm trying not to preach, and I'm trying just to to get the
And what
idea
about
well.
that kind of tissue, the fascia, no? The connecting tissue of our body, which nobody really, well, no, nobody, but like us normal people, we don't consider it. I mean, we can see it when we buy meat, that there is this
We
white...
eat it.
We eat it,
We
yeah.
twist it. We work on it. Yeah, it's, well,
What is the importance of it in our body and in our health system?
let's go from the end. And the end is something we know for the last 2 years for sure, what we call evidence-based, is that the fascia is connected to the autonomic nervous system. And this is the biggest revelation, because the autonomic nervous system is controlling almost all works of the body, all. And that it's connected, which means that the autonomic nervous system is controlling our movement, something we never thought about it before, because if the fascia is wrapping everything, including every tissue in the body, including muscle tissue, nerve tissue, for example, all the organs, and breaching and actually supporting our body. So if something is happening to us and we know that the autonomic nervous system is very in close relationship with the immune system, in very in close relationship with the limbic or emotional part of our brain, it means that if we are not well emotionally, our body cannot function in a proper way. This is for me the biggest revelation of the last couple of years. So the rest is, our body is not the muscles. Our body is wrapped in a certain wrap that is actually having inside itself most of the information of the body, and this is normal. Just imagine when we are talking about something that we call proprioception, which was a sort of misunderstanding for long years. Proprioception, it means that the body knows where it is. Okay, so people and researchers were working for years on years to let us and explain to us that when we are on the ground and we're feeling the ground, we have a different level of proprioception. Of course, when you're getting older, proprioception is going a little bit down, the tissues are falling, the collagen is breaking down, etc., etc. But how could you explain when somebody is in space or somebody who is a paratrooper falling from the sky, how he can feel what's going on in his body? No explanation. Because we thought that the proprioceptors are located near the muscles and definitely inside the ligament and the tendons. But now we know that the biggest proprioceptor in the body is the deep and superficial fascia, something like 10 folds more than in this ligament and tendons or muscles. So now we can understand that even if you are in zero gravity, floating somewhere, you know exactly where you are, because the stretchability of the fascia letting you know exactly who is pulling what. And this is also a huge revelation, but in day-to-day life, nobody's taking care about it. And we know that only a small amount of people are actually aware of these changes in understanding the body. And the impact on therapeutical intervention is enormous. But somehow it's not reaching the correct people, and still people are doing procedures that actually are obsolete, but still doing it. Why? In this area I cannot answer.
Well,